it's not a prophecy. We can take actions today to prevent this. We can have regulations about it. We can, for instance, have a regulation that AIs are welcome to interact with humans, but on condition that they disclose that they are AIs. If you talk with an AI doctor, that's good, but the AI should not pretend to be a human being. I'm talking with an AI. I mean, it's not that there is no possibility that AI will develop consciousness. We don't know. I mean, there could be that AIs will really develop consciousness. If it's mimicking
it to such a degree of fidelity, does it even, in terms of like how human beings interact with it, does it matter?
For the human beings, no. I mean, again, this is the problem. I mean, because we don't know if they really have consciousness or they're only very, very good at mimicking consciousness. So the key question is ultimately political and ethical. If they have consciousness, if they can feel pain and pleasure and love and hate, this means that they are ethical and political subjects. They have rights, that you should not inflict pain on an AI the same way you should not inflict pain on a human being. That what they like, what they love, might be as important as what human beings desire, so they should also vote in elections. And they could be the majority. Because, you can have a country, 100 million humans and 500 million AIs. So do they choose the government in this situation? Now, in the United States, interestingly enough, there is actually an open legal path for AIs to gain rights. It's one of the only countries in the world where this is the case. Because in the United States, corporations are recognized as legal persons with rights. Until today, this was a kind of legal fiction. Like according to US law, Google is a person. It's not just a corporation, it's a person. And as a person, it also has freedom of speech. This is the Supreme Court ruling for 2010 of Citizen United. Now, until today, this was just legal fiction because every decision made by Google was actually made by some human being. An executive, a lawyer, an accountant. Google could not make a decision independent of the humans. But now you have AIs. So imagine the situation when you incorporate an AI. Now this AI is a corporation. And as a corporation, US law recognizes it as a person with certain rights like freedom of speech. Now it can earn money. It can go online, for instance, and offer its services to people and earn money. Then it can open a bank account and invest its money in the stock exchange. And if it's very smart and very intelligent, it could become the richest person in the US. Now imagine the richest person in the US is not a human. It's an AI. And according to US law, one of the rights of this person is to make political contributions, donations. This was the main reason behind Citizen United in 2010. So this AI now makes billions of dollars of contributions to politicians in exchange for expanding AI rights. And the legal path is in the US is completely open. You don't need any new law to make this happen.
That's like that's a plot of a movie.
Yeah, when we're in LA.
Yeah, I mean, wow, that's so wild to contemplate. What are the differences in the ways in which the advent of this powerful technology is impacting democratic systems and authoritarian systems?
So both systems have a lot to gain and have a lot to lose. Again, the AI, it's the most powerful technology ever created. It's not a tool, it's an agent. So you have millions and billions of new agents, very intelligent, very capable, that can be used to create the best healthcare system in the world, but also the most lethal army in the world, or the worst secret police in the world. If you think about authoritarian regimes, so throughout history, they always wanted to monitor their citizens around the clock, but this was technically impossible. Even in the Soviet Union, you have 200 million Soviet citizens. You can't follow them all the time because the KGB didn't have 200 million agents. And even if the KGB somehow got 200 million agents, that's not enough. Because, in the Soviet Union, it's still basically paper bureaucracy, the secret police. If a secret agent followed you around 24 hours a day, at the end of the day, they write a paper report about you and send it to KGB headquarters in Moscow. So imagine, every day, KGB headquarters is flooded with 200 million paper reports. Now, to be useful for anything, somebody needs to read and analyze them. They can't do it. They don't have the analysts. Therefore, even in the Soviet Union, some level of privacy was still the default for most people, for technical reasons. Now, for the first time in history, it is technically possible to annihilate privacy. A totalitarian regime today doesn't need millions of human agents if he wants to follow everybody around. You have the smartphones and cameras and drones and microphones everywhere. And you don't need millions of human analysts to analyze this ocean of information. You have AI. And this is already beginning to happen. This is not a future prediction. In many places around the world, you begin to see the formation of this totalitarian surveillance regime. It's happening in my country, in Israel. Israel is building this kind of surveillance regime in the occupied Palestinian territories to follow everybody around all the time. And also in our region, in Iran, since the Islamic Revolution in 1979, they had the hijab laws, which says that every woman, when she goes out, walking or even driving in her private car, she must wear the hijab, the headscarf. And until today, the regime had difficulty enforcing the hijab laws because they didn't have, millions of police officers that you can place on every street. A police officer, if a woman drives without a headscarf, immediately she's arrested and fined or whatever. In the last few years, they switched to relying on an AI system. Iran is now crisscrossed by surveillance cameras with facial recognition software, which recognizes automatically if in the car that just passed by the camera, the facial recognition software can identify that this is a woman, not a man, and she's not wearing the hijab, and identify her identity, find her phone number, and within half a second, they send her an SMS message saying, you broke the hijab law, your car is impounded, your car is confiscated, stop the car, and by the side of the road. This is daily occurrence today in Tehran and Isfahan and other parts of Iran. And this is based on AI. And it's not like there is a report that goes to the court and some human judge goes over the data and decides what to do. The AI immediately decides, okay, the car is confiscated. And this can happen in more and more places around the world, like even in the US. For if you think about all the debate about abortion, without going into the debate itself, the people who think, rightly or wrongly, but they think that abortion is murder, they have a very strong incentive to build a similar surveillance system for American women, to stop murder. Like, you can build this surveillance system that can identify, yesterday you're pregnant, today you are not, what happened in between? So it's not just a problem, for Iran or for the Palestinians or the Chinese. This can come to the US as well.
And to prevent them from crossing state lines, things like that. Yeah. Like,
okay, you went from, Texas to California, you were pregnant, you came back, you're not pregnant. What happened in California?
So it feels like AI is this incredible tool to consolidate power around authoritarian regimes, but it also has its pitfalls too. It's not the perfect tool.
It also frightens the autocrats because the one thing that human dictators always feared most was not a democratic revolution. The one thing they feared most is a powerful subordinate that they can't control and that might manipulate them or take power from them. If you can look at the Roman Empire, not a single Roman emperor was ever toppled by a democratic revolution. Never happened. But many of them lost their life or their power to a subordinate, a general that rebelled against them, a provincial governor, their brother, their wife that took power from them. This is the greatest fear of every dictator, also today. And so if you think about AI, so if you're a human dictator and you now give this immense power to an AI system, where is the guarantee that this system will not turn against you and either eliminate you or just turn you into a puppet? what we also know about dictators, it's relatively easy to manipulate these people if you can whisper in their ear.
Right.
Because they are very paranoid.
Yeah.
And the easiest people to manipulate are the paranoid people.
And we have our AI corporation in the United States that can deploy billions of dollars towards bots and whatever else to, create that paranoia or enhance it.
And you really just need to hack one person. For an AI to take power in the US, very complicated. It's such a distributed system. Like, okay, the AI can learn to manipulate the president, but it also needs to manipulate the senators and the Congress members and the state governors and the Supreme Court. Like, what would the AI do with a Senate filibuster? It's difficult. But if you want to take power in a dictatorship, you just need to learn to manipulate a single person. So the dictators are not all happy about the AIs. And we're already beginning to see it, for instance, with chatbots, that they are very concerned because you can design a chatbot which will be completely loyal to the regime. But once you release it to the internet to start interacting with people in real life, it changes. I mean, remember what we talked earlier, that AI is defined by the ability to learn and change by itself. So even if Putin creates like the Putinist chatbot, that always says that Putin is great and Putin is right and Russia is great and so forth, but then you release it to the real world, it starts observing things in the real world. For instance, it notices that, in Russia, the invasion of Ukraine is officially not a war, it's called a special military operation. And if you say that it's a war, you go to prison for up to, I think, 3 years or something like that. Because it's not a war, it's a special military operation. Now, what do? If a very intelligent chatbot that you released, connects the dots and says, no, it's not a special military operation, it's a war, would you send a chatbot to prison? What can you do? And, democracies, of course, also have a problem with chatbot saying things we don't like. They can be racist, they can be homophobic, whatever. But the thing about democracy, it has a relatively wide margin of tolerance, even for anti-democratic speech. Dictatorships have zero margin for dissenting views. So they have a much bigger problem with how to control these unpredictable chatbots.